majority of your games are against those teams, and you're going to run into that more often than not.
I think that 4-game stretch coming up before they get to Sacramento, because Sacramento's awful and they should beat Sacramento. If they go 2-2 in those 4 games, they should feel good. I think if they can somehow steal one of these road games and then beat Denver at home, I don't think they're going to beat Golden State. But if they do, they just need to be able to go 2-2 and kind of get back on track.
Well, I think you'd be gearing up, you personally, for the December 10th game when the 76ers come to town.
Yes.
Your first NBA in-person sight of Ben Simmons, who's been playing outstanding. It's funny that he's considered in Rookie of the Year, but he didn't play last year, so he is technically a rookie.
A year older or whatever. Look, he's had a little bit of an education the last 2 games. They got pretty much schooled by the Cleveland Cavaliers and the guy that a lot of people compare Ben Simmons to, LeBron James, and then they went to Boston and lost by 11. And Boston's playing so well, you knew the Sixers weren't up to that task. But this is part of the education of a young player like Ben Simmons. To me, Ben Simmons is more of a Magic Johnson type. He's not as flashy as Magic Johnson, but the court vision right off the bat. I mean, I think LeBron James has developed into that kind of player, kind of the point forward type position. But I don't think he came into the league with the same vision that Ben Simmons has. And Simmons is still struggling, I think, with his shot. He didn't have that great shot at LSU. I think he's a gym rat. That will develop, just like it did with Magic Johnson, just like it did with Jason Kidd, Michael Jordan. Just go down the list. Even LeBron. LeBron was not a great outside shooter. But these guys, that's all they do now. It's their job. And they just work on their game year after year. And these gym rat types like Ben Simmons develop into good shooters. And I have no doubt in my mind that in 3 or 4 years, he's going to be a knockdown outside shooter. I just know he will be.
And just reverting back to the Pelicans, you look at the standings right now, and Portland is 5th, Denver is 6th, Pelicans are 7th, Jazz are 8th. So you're basically facing in the next 4 or 5 games all teams that are in the playoff hunt right now in the Western Conference, and those 3 teams I just mentioned, they're all floating around you right now. Portland is 13-9, Denver's 12-9, Pelicans are 11-10, and the Jazz are 11-11. And there's a drop off after that. Look, OKC and the Clippers are 8-12. The Lakers are 8-13. So you could kind of see who the top 8 are.
Yep.
The Pelicans, though, they can't afford major dips. You can't allow, say, OKC to get back into this thing, even though it's early. And they're basically 2.5 games behind the Pelicans. You can't afford, though, to lose all of these games to the people that are floating around. You can't do it.
I personally think OKC will eventually figure it out and get back in it. I'll be shocked. I mean, there's just too much talent there unless they just are a complete chemistry nightmare.
It happens.
It's a chemistry
and
nightmare right now.
Melo is certainly one who's been known for being a chemistry nightmare.
Yeah, he's the rogue plutonium ion in the chemistry. But I think
I'm afraid of that. Stop talking that way.
I just think they've got good leadership there in their front office. I mean, I think Billy Donovan's a really good coach. I think they're going to figure it out eventually. They're the dangerous team down there. I think the Clippers are done. I've always felt like that. I don't think Memphis is just talented enough.
Well, Memphis is 7-13.
Yeah.
Look, you could just look at it from here. Like there's one
one.
team.
In my opinion, there's 9 teams.
OKC is that 19.
Yes.
Who, if they can figure it out, they can contend. And who knows? Are the Jazz gonna maintain? I mean, they're 11-11. Is Denver gonna maintain? I don't know. So I think you're right. I think there's 9 teams, and the rest are just battling for lottery supremacy as far as the draft.
And in my opinion, the top 3 are pretty clear in Houston, Golden State, and San Antonio. And what you don't want is a first-round game against one of those 3 teams where you're playing on their court. I mean, that's just a one-and-done scenario. I don't think anybody in this lower group, Utah, New Orleans, Denver, is capable of beating any of those big 3 in a 5-game series on their court.
You want to be 4-5. That's what you want.
Yeah,
to
you want to get to 5. That's the goal.
Or get to 5. That's good enough.
Yeah, get to 5. Just get there.
Exactly, just get there.
I don't think any of those teams. I just think those big 3 are too formidable.
And you can't. As far as looking at the Pelicans, you can't say, "Oh, it's still early." No, every game is going to matter because they're not one of these top 3 teams. So every little win is going to matter, especially in this stretch, even though you're 21 games into the season. Every little game, every little win, and every loss, look, that's going to either help you or hurt you, and you can't take anything that it's only early in the season. No, you got to beat the teams that are around you. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. These games all add up. They're no different. Now, I do think teams can evolve. Trades can be made. You just don't know what's going to happen once the trade deadline gets here. And some teams might drop off. Some teams might start working toward the future. And some teams might decide to make a run. I think Oklahoma City's ripe for some kind of deal at some point.
Yeah.
Because it's not working right now.
Yeah, I would agree. So why don't we take a break right here on the show? And Dave, why don't you let listeners know how to score Pelicans Warriors tickets one more time, because I still don't know. I'm confused. I'll never win the tickets. I don't know how to
You're
do
not
this
going to
thing.
win.
I'm not going to win. So Dave, how do we do this?
Well, when you ask for the keyword next hour, they'll have to be the first caller with the correct word, and then they win.
And Jeffrey, what is the key word?
Puka.
Puka, as in
Rhymes
puka?
with hookah.
Rhymes with hookah. Yes, it does. It's not a puka bar. It's just Puka Williams.
And if you don't know Puka, you can read NOLA.com and read all about Anthony Puka Williams, the phenom from Hahnville High School that is blowing up right now in the state playoffs and is being recruited. Nick Saban called the other day on Puka Williams.
So when we ask for the keyword next hour, you give us a call, 504-260-1280, and you can win Pelicans Warriors tickets on Monday night. I don't care if it's a Monday night. It's the Warriors, and it's lower bowl seats, so they're good seats. So 11 o'clock hour, we will ask for that keyword. But when we come back, I'm sure we will be talking about Puka Williams with our Preps recruiting guru, Jimmy Smith. So we'll talk what's going on with the landscape of the SEC, how much has it changed, and the early signing period's coming up in less than a month. I mean, we're in December now. It's later on this month, so lots of moving and shaking in the recruiting world. And we'll talk with Jimmy Smith coming up here next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder. Yes, I'll never win.
Yeah, I like they're doing it, though. It's cool. Somebody asked me if the YouTubers
1280, New Orleans.
could
Yeah,
be
if they got
involved.
the phone number, they can.
Okay.
Tell me to have to call in.
It's an 800 number, right?
So now what we're going to do is no. If they're out of state, they just can't win. I mean, we're not giving them the out of state. You
Oh, that's
gotta have
true.
an address that's
Well, this
in
guy
the
might be
New Orleans
watching.
metro area.
This guy might be watching and be on
but it is
locally,
much drier.
I'll let him know.
Well, if the YouTubers are local and they live in the New Orleans metro area, yeah, they can win. But they got to be able to pick them up either today or Monday.
Right, okay.
So, but now we're not going to give the keyword out anymore until, let's say, we'll ask for it at 11:30. That gives us an hour, so that
Okay.
means people have to stay listening for a whole hour.
Okay.
Joker's Wild. Lottery went up to $100,000.
You and your riddles, damn it.
Taylor, and ask for
Yes,
Joker's
Jimmy here.
Wild today for your chance to win.
Dave
Must
and
be
his
at least
riddles.
21 to purchase.
2 new experimental drugs seem to help reduce headaches for people suffering from chronic migraines. Both drugs are injectables.
Which number am I calling? The 504 number or the?
Yeah, I think 504.
Okay. All right.
Molecule known to spike during migraine attacks. Researchers say 2 separate studies show that 4 out of 10 patients on the drugs were able to cut their migraine days in half each month. A woman whose mother fought depression all her life is now running a campaign to get more
What is it,
money for
260-1280?
depression awareness and
Yep.
research. Audrey Gruss is doing it by selling a perfume she created called Hope. She named it for her mom.
When you breathe it in and you inhale it, it goes right to the brain and it gives you this feeling of lifting your senses.
Gruss is not a scientist, and her Hope
going
perfume,
on?
well, it's not a drug, but she thinks its fragrance
Oh, it went
conveys
over.
a sense of well-being. Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda. That's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled
All right, he still hasn't answered.
could cost you around $10,000.
Yeah,
in fines,
I texted
legal
him and he
fees,
didn't,
increased insurance rates. Please
He
drive
didn't answer when I
around.
texted him.
Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is Dr. Ned Hallowell
I've
for
also got
ADHD
legal
Awareness Month. Many people think that having ADHD means something is wrong with them. When
take
in
a day off
managed
next week so I can pay him.
properly, it can be your greatest asset.
I gotta go speak
I
at
know
this thing
because
at
I have
noon
it myself.
downtown.
People
All
with
right.
ADHD.
All right, he's not answering either number, all right?
All right, man.
Once they
I'm
learn
failing in
to control
every way
their
today.
brakes, they'll win races.
Larry Holder's.
For
It's
tips
now the
on
Holder
managing
Show.
ADHD, listen to my
It's
weekly
been the Holder Show.
podcast at distractionpodcast.com.
Hear us use the keyword puka, then you call.
Whether you ride the wave or like to growl, we're talking your teens. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. We're efforting Jimmy Smith. We get him, he gets on the show. If we don't, we just move on. But look, it's Jeff. We've talked about this a bunch of times as far as how the recruiting landscape with the early signing period day is something that has made college football coaches be, in my opinion, axed earlier than you've been seeing maybe in years past, because they've got to get that under wraps, or they might lose a whole recruiting class anyway, but B, because of that early signing period, it's a must to have some sort of stability. And look, it's LSU's advantage, the fact that they've got some stability right now, and they're able to kind of swoop in, and if someone's committed to A&M, they can go swoop in, and all these other schools, and it's something that, look, at least LSU's got going for them, which we might not have thought maybe like 2 months ago.
I think you make a great point about the stability, right? The whole conference right now is almost in upheaval, so the strong are going to get stronger, and that's Alabama. I mean, let's face it, they're the power in the conference, but right now, I guarantee you every assistant coach in the country is calling recruits at these schools that have had coaching changes. Even the ones that have already made hires, Mississippi State, they've got to cover their flanks. Florida, all of them, because there's going to be some movement. I guarantee you there's going to be decommitments because these kids get a relationship with the head coach, and now everything's in upheaval. Same with Tennessee. I mean, I'm sure there's players at Tennessee being poached right now by rival recruiters.
Oh, I'm sure there is. And joining us right here to talk about that, Jimmy Smith, our recruiting guru here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Jimmy, I'm sure it's been crazy town for you to try to keep up with what's going on, considering I'm sure kids in high school are wondering if they've, say, committed to a certain school like Arkansas or A&M or Mississippi State or whatever, that it's so fluid right now, especially with the early signing period.
Yeah, I think the early signing period, definitely added to the confusion because not only are these kids making decisions earlier, I think it's forcing these colleges' hands to make their coaching decisions earlier in the process as well, trying to get ahead of that early signing period. So it's really complicated things a bunch. I think teams around the SEC and probably the country, with as many moves are being made nationwide, are kind of scrambling and changing up their recruiting boards, adding new names to the list, guys they might not have talked to for months or even a year. So, I mean, it's really interesting developments, and, I think this is the way of the future. This isn't going to be just this year. I think this is the way recruiting and these coaching changes and the circus is just going to start earlier in the year now. So very interesting times on the recruiting trail.
Well, Jimmy, do you think there's going to be some fallout from all these coaching changes? Can you see, and have there already been, decommitments and changes from some of these top prospects that might have already been committed to Tennessee or Mississippi State or Florida or Arkansas?
Yeah, I think, with so much going on, I think, and these coaching moves being made prior to decision time, I think a lot of these kids are a little more prepared to kind of wait this out and see, who's going to be the next head coach at Tennessee or Texas A&M, and kind of let things unfold before they make their decision. But anytime there's a coaching change and there's a commitment on hand, he's starting to make preparations in case he has to defect and go find another school. And he's lining up plan B and plan C. So I'm sure everybody's doing that at all these schools right now. And some kids, I think Florida State received its third decommitment, and there's just rumors in Florida State right now. There's just rumors in Tallahassee. Nothing's been solidified. There's a lot of smoke, and there's probably some fire in the woods, but and there hasn't been anything public settled them, and yet they're losing 3 commitments already. I think Texas A&M, their situation, cloud has been hanging over this administration for a while. So a lot of the kids that might have been committed to, say, a Texas A&M already maybe anticipated this happening, and those kids may be more inclined to be committed to the school than the coaching staff. So each situation's different, but I know everybody across the board is looking at their options moving forward.
Jimmy Smith, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, recruiting guru, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. And Jimmy, what's kind of the latest with LSU? I mean, and as far as, or had they been, now that the season's over, they're waiting for the bowls. I mean, how hot and heavy are they going to be moving forward? And considering that there's not many games to go see, I mean, I think you're starting to see a lot of the more in-house visits, right?
Yeah, and that's something that's usually been reserved for January, leading to National Signing Day in-home visits. Now you have these coaches on the road starting to do these in-home visits. We see LSU staffers in Shreveport, Stevens, Minger, and recruiting Justin Rogers and Terrace Marshall, the state's top receiver and top quarterback. And Orgeron's out on the road. Corey Raymond's been in Patrick Surtain, the nation's #1 corners living room with Pat Surtain Sr., former NFL star. So these coaches are out recruiting heavy right now, trying to get as many signatures as possible on National Signing Day. And a lot of schools, and especially LSU, are expecting almost all of their current commits to sign on that 3-day signing period, December 20th through the 22nd. So they're trying to, it's just moving the process ahead. They're basically putting the final nails in the house, and it's going to be ready to be moved into. So I think they're just speeding up the process a couple months. What you saw happening in January is transpiring now, and they're on the road hitting it hard, and they've got some momentum on the recruiting trail right now.
Jimmy Smith, recruiting guru from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Look, Jeff wrote a column on Puka Williams from Hahnville, and I'm just curious, how much traction has he been getting recently, considering how incredible he's been playing during these playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, Puka's ability's never been the question for college coaches. He's really had off to a strong year, not only on the field but off in the classroom, which is helping his cause a little bit. But his recruitment, I think, is really going to start to pick up in January once schools get to see where he's at academically. There are some different rules now in the NCAA that would allow kids to enroll at colleges and just be academic redshirt freshmen, where some of those kids in the past might have been forced to the junior college route. There are a lot of people that feel like he ultimately could be declared eligible, that he's been turning things around in the classroom and fixing some areas that were concerns for teams. So it's never been what he does on the field. Now, what he does on the field is unbelievable. During my time at NOLA, which is over 5 years now, I've yet to cover a kid more electric and dynamic with the ball in his hands, and that's including, Speedy Noyles and Leonard Fournette. I mean, they did great things with the ball. They were exciting to watch, but Puka is never fully contained. The kid is just unbelievable. What he's done in this playoff stretch has definitely caught everybody's attention. But I don't know if any schools are going to move until they see how things shake out for him in the coming months in the classroom.
Jimmy, what ultimately, where do you see Puka Williams playing? I talked to Coach Salt of Amaggio. Salt felt like maybe he would be a slot receiver, kind of a all-purpose guy, return specialist. Where do you see him playing at the next level?
Yeah, I think there is a real position these days called the slot back. It was a term that was kind of thrown around loosely over years, the guys that Eric Metcalf and that can move around and do different things on the football field. In today's spread offenses, I think there are true slot backs, guys that line up in the backfield 25 plays a game, guys that line up in the slot at 25 plays a game, and that's kind of where I see Puka excelling at the next level. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. You want to get him in space, and so you're going to find any and every way to do that. In LSU's offense, I think he would. You'd see him motioning into the backfield a lot. He'd be that guy on jet sweeps a lot, and every team's going to try to utilize him in the return game. So, I think he's a true slot back. I think he's not going to be a full-time receiver or a full-time running back at the next level. I think you'll see equal duties at both.
Jimmy, has anyone's stock risen through the playoffs here in Louisiana? And if so, maybe who are one or two kids who you think has kind of stood out and teams might be calling more than maybe they have been already?
Yeah, a lot of underclassmen for U-High are really University Lab over in Baton Rouge have really established themselves as big-time recruits. They came in, they were starting to get some offers in the spring, and it looked like they had 4 Division I prospects. Well, now it's starting to look like they have 4 Power 5 division prospects, and they've all had tremendous playoff campaigns. Micaiah Tongue playing receiver, safety, Jordan Clark, Ryan Clark's son, excelling at the corner and even getting some reps at slot receiver, and Christian Harris, and those guys out there have really had exceptional seasons, and they've only escalated their play here in the playoffs. Jamiron James, a kid that's committed to Tulane from De La Salle, has been really stellar these last few weeks. He's been solid throughout his career, very disruptive guy, had undersized, but he's been turning some heads. I know a lot of people that have been getting calls, people inquiring about him, schools that maybe didn't have him on their radar a month or two ago. So there's certainly some guys making splashes. I think the one that's really turned the most heads, though, is Puka Williams for sure.
Jimmy, I wanted to ask you about Lindsey Scott, the former LSU quarterback that's now at East Mississippi Community College. I understand Tulane has been recruiting him very heavily. I know that they tried to get involved with him in high school, and I know Frank Wilson at Texas San Antonio is also involved. You have any update on where he might land? Because I could see him being, if he were to land at Tulane, that would be a pivotal recruit for Willie Fritz just because of his profile, and he's was a top high school player, but I'm sure he has a connection to Frank Wilson as well.
Yeah, I think last few games I watched Tulane this year, I started thinking of that aspect. How would Lindsey Scott fit into this offense? And with all the RPO run pass option they run, and them showing the willingness to kind of air it out in some certain games, especially SMU game, they were really throwing the ball. I think he would be exceptional at Tulane, and I think they've got a real shot here. But at the end of the day, Lindsey views himself as a major program player, a Power 5, Big 12, SEC caliber quarterback, and if one of those schools present the proper opportunity, I think that's where he'd ultimately end up. But excluding those programs that have yet to really make their move, I think Tulane and UTSA are certainly his 2 favorites right now. He has some familiarity with Frank Wilson, of course, and they run an offense that is versatile and can utilize a lot of his skills. And Tulane's certainly up there with everything they've been doing, and he recently took a visit down there last week. So, he's really starting to build a bond with that staff. I just received a text from his father. If I wasn't on the phone, I'd go look through it right now. But I believe he scheduled an official visit for Kansas coming up in, I want to say, next weekend. So Kansas has entered the race. They've officially kind of made their move. It'll be interesting to see with the struggles they've had on the field, if that could lure him with everything they have going on in Lawrence. Ultimately, I don't think he would settle on that program, being the struggles they've had on the field, but who knows? They've been able to convince quite a few Louisiana kids this year to give them a look. So, but I think some school, when you start to look at the schools that are recruiting junior college quarterbacks, there seems to be about 5 or 6 of them and only about 3 or 4 options. So I think once some of those kids start declaring, I think some of those schools that are kind of left at the altar are probably going to come in Lindsey's direction. So the school he ultimately signs with, if I were to bet right now, is a school that hasn't offered him yet.
Jimmy Smith, Preps, recruiting guru, and JUCO, and all of it here for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Follow all this coverage of all of it at NOLA.com and on Twitter at Jimmy Detail. Hey, Jimmy, appreciate the time as always, buddy. And you're it's funny how your busy time is creeping up quicker than you even realize, I'm sure, or you probably do realize it, and you're going to be swamped.
I think it just extended our busy time is all I think that's going to happen here. So
there you
hooray
go.
For us.
There you go. All right, Jimmy, great job, buddy. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jimmy.
As always. All right, let's switch gears to on the field playoff action. Jim Derry, our Preps guru here at NOLA.com and Times-Picayune. Look, we are in semifinals, and you've already got the select finals settled, and yet you've got some big-time matchups. 3 particular, maybe 4, I think we've got locally that we're going to be paying attention to tonight. So we'll talk with Jim Derry about all those and his thoughts on the playoffs in general. So come on back here, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Some people look down on me.
Yeah, blanked out there.
Lindsay, though,
Well,
I forgot.
Dan had told me last week.
Chris Gordy.
But he said that
Defense is
Dan
playing
said
much
the exact
better.
same
I
thing.
just think that looking at Dave Aranda, I
big
don't
school
know
that comes after him. Kids
he
got
just doesn't have the horses.
Mornings 8 to 10.
He's got a lot of inexperienced guys, and guys
he'd be
that maybe
perfect
aren't
in their
living up to
but I wonder what they do with
expectations that
Banks.
we had for them coming into the season.
On Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I'm Dave Marley, president of Marley Drug. Are you taking Viagra? Now you can get sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra, in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $50 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic sildenafil to your door. For more information on sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us 800-854.
Oh, that's right. All right, we got dairy and 1 minute. All right, and some change.
Yeah.
375.
If you need a payday loan fast, try lendup.com. Apply online in minutes on your phone, and you can have cash in your account fast. Lendup.com is the better payday loan, with no hidden fees, and good credit is not required. Visit lendup.com. Lendup is a licensed credit services organization, not a direct lender in Ohio and Texas, subject to availability in your state.
Yeah, you did. Lendup. Right, I thought about that. But what happens is
the better way to borrow.
Because we're trying to get all
North Pole Radio on iHeartRadio.
So like you end up like your weekends are kind of
as I play all of
like
your
during the week
Christmas
it's
favorites
crazy.
live from my
It's
North
crazy. Like
Pole
there's literally no
studio.
time I'm working till like 11 every night.
Search North Pole Radio on
And I
the
don't
free
mind it,
iHeartRadio
but it's
app
just
and hit play
weird
for a
trying to get
perfect holiday
everything done.
season soundtrack.
Join me for a musical sleigh ride. It's
And they
going to be
wanted to
lit like Rudolph's
like I was in
nose.
college this morning.
North Pole
And it
Radio
made-
on
Gene made sense.
iHeartRadio.com
He's like,
or on the free
well, I mean,
iHeartRadio app
You can't
now.
run a story and then they beat Friday. Right. You gotta have
Download
it
the
by
McDonald's
Thursday,
app and
so
get
I
a
had
free
to
large
change
soft
everything
drink
up.
with any purchase every week. And right now, get any size soft drink or sweet tea for just $1
Jennifer
anytime
said
at
that.
McDonald's. Limited time.
Spain
Participation may vary. See
Think
mcdapp.com
about
for
Spain.
details. McDonald's.
She was like, he
loving
goes,
it.
I'll be your number two. I'll be good number two.
fault. It's so hard not to stare at that honky tonk, but don't.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
The self-proclaimed originator of Country Fried Friday is on the line. One Jim Derry. I think you've become less of an arch nemesis to Dave as maybe Josh has. Josh may be like public enemy number one. Jim, you're slipping, dude. You're falling down the list. What's up with that?
I don't know that I'm the self-proclaimed originator.
Thank you.
of Country
I was
Fried
going to
Friday.
dive in on that. You are not. Dave is the
I think that I'm
originator.
the one that said that.
I'm just making things
that's
up.
typical Larry.
Exaggeration McGee over here.
Sir Lawrence loves to stir the pot.
I'd rather be who I am and be part of Country Fried Friday than Nickelback and Sting. So
Yeah. Dave's got it bad for Josh, and it's not good for Josh. So look, few games left in the Preps schedule, but we've got some good ones coming up here this weekend. Jim, where are you going to be headed tonight?
You know, it's scary to think it's the last night of outdoor football.
All right, we've got 7 minutes.
As far as preps go. And I'm going to be at Berman Stadium tonight. Looking forward to the rematch, Carr and Easton. We did the game 4 weeks ago, and here we are again doing the semifinals matchup like we thought we would have. And Regis Radiator NOLA.com prep game of the week is live tonight from Berman Stadium, where number 1 Carr and number 4 Easton match up in the Class 4A semifinals.
What makes this different than maybe when you saw them a few weeks ago, or are there major differences between the two teams?
You know, really, the teams are very similar in lots of ways, and that's why the route 4 weeks ago was so surprising, 40-6. You know, I think if they played each other 10 times, you'd only have maybe 2 routes. And just things kind of snowballed for Easton in that first game. They had Carr scored on its first drive. Easton fumbled on their first drive, and then things just kind of snowballed from there. So I expect this game to be a much tighter game, and I think both coaches, there's been a lot less smack talk between the two teams as well leading up to this game. They've both been focused. They've both painted. You know, I couldn't get Jerry Phillips, the Warren Easton coach, to call me back for 3 days. It took him 3 days to call me back, and usually he answers the phone right when I call. So, I mean, they are focused. They are both ready to go, and I would be very, very surprised if game isn't much closer than the first one.
Well, JD, I got to ask you about Class 5A because obviously I was down earlier this week. Yeah, I was down at Hahnville, and I know that you at one time had said you thought Acadiana might be, early in the season, you thought they might be the favorite to win the state title. Now I think the way Hahnville's playing, the way Puka Williams is playing, I think you feel like that's got Hahnville has a better shot in that game than I think maybe we all originally thought.
I think Hahnville has a better shot than anyone thinks they have even now. I mean, I think they have a better shot than probably I even think they have. This team believes in themselves probably more than any other team that's still playing right now, except maybe Carr. I mean, Carr knows that they're going to the Dome. So for a 10 seed to play like they've been playing, they've already outdone what they're supposed to do by a 10 seed get into the semifinals. But the way they played number 2 Covington last week in a complete and dominating fashion, and Covington's a very good football team. And it's not just Puka Williams. They're doing it with their defenses, which is what they're going to need to do tonight to have a chance against an Acadiana team that has won 28 consecutive playoff games at home. That's just an absurd stat. That's like Evangel-like, John Curtis-like. And it all stems from the Acadiana coach, Ted Davidson, who's been there for 13 or 14 years and has just changed that program to where they are now a dynasty, and you almost expect them to get at least this far every year. They're like Carr now. They're like John Curtis. I mean, that's what they are. And so Hahnville has their hands full tonight, and Acadiana has to be considered the favorite because of all the stats that I mentioned. They're 6-0 under Ted Davidson when they get to the semifinals, so they've never lost in this round. They've gone to the Dome all 6 times they've got here. But Hahnville doesn't care about all that. They're not looking at stats. They believe in themselves, and they've got number 7, who is one of the best high school football players I've ever seen.
Jim Derry, prep guru here at NOLA.com. The Times Picayune. Join us right here on Dunc and Holder. Jim, I remember a couple weeks ago I was asking you about how legitimate is Lakeshore, and when they go and beat Neville, and Neville is typical 4A power every year, and they beat them by 31. I think, look, Lakeshore, in my eyes, they've got to have as much of a legitimate shot at winning this whole thing as anyone else, right?
Absolutely. They have to be careful. It's just like Hahnville at 10 has outkicked the coverage, I guess, and made it to the semifinals, believes in himself. They're playing a team in the Rain Wolves tonight that comes in as the 11 seed, and Rain is the one that beat them last year. And what's interesting about these two teams is they both have almost the same teams that they had last year. Excuse me. So Lakeshore is absolutely legit. They have a high-flying offense that just seems to do whatever they want. You put up 50-some-odd points on Neville.
About 2 minutes.
You are really good no matter what Neville team you're playing. So they showed that they can put up points, but let's see if they can get past their kryptonite. Let's see if they can get past the team that knocked them out last year and knocked them out handily. The team they're playing tonight has a running back in Trent Winbush that's kind of like Puka. He's rushed for 2,400 yards and 30-some-odd touchdowns. So, and then they have another running back that has over 1,300 yards. So Lakeshore's defense has never seen anything like they're going to see tonight. So I think that's going to be a shootout, and I think it's going to be an exciting game. And Lakeshore also hasn't been in more than maybe 1 or 2 close games. So I think that's also going to come into play tonight. But, yeah, the Titans definitely are for real, and they absolutely have an excellent chance to make it to the Dome after not having won a playoff game before this season even started in school history.
Just about a minute.
All right, Jim, 20 seconds. Where are you going to be at tonight? Let everybody know where to listen, where to watch, and where to follow.
Regis Radiator NOLA.com game of the week tonight is at Berman Stadium. My friend Claude will be hopping down. Cocky Claude will be hopping down tonight and come and meet me out at Berman for Edna Carr and Warren Easton tonight, the 1 seed against the 4 seed. Winner going to the Dome. Last outdoor game of the prep football season. You can hear it all on NOLA.com. We will have plenty of links. You'll be able to find it pretty easily.
And next week we'll talk about all the state finals, select, non-select. So, Jim, we'll catch up with you next week. All right, buddy. Thanks, man.
Thanks, JD.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Jim Derry, Preps Guru here at NOLA.com, the Times Picayune. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. We'll be talking heavy Saints, Panthers coming up. I had a chance to catch up with Michael Thomas. You'll hear that in hour number 2. We'll do our picks, too. What is it? Fantasy stud of the week, lock of the week, upset of the week. So we'll bring you all that and our Saints picks. So, look. And you can get involved. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder.
When the love starts burning, you got to do it
right.
You don't trip.
iHeartRadio is your Christmas music app. Christmas music stations for any taste. Rock, R&B, country, even North Pole Radio, hosted by Santa himself.
That's right.
Plus, our most popular station, iHeart Christmas Radio. No need to search for the perfect Christmas soundtrack. iHeartRadio is the only app you need for Christmas music. All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free.
iHeartRadio.
Right now at the Home Depot, buy a select toolkit and get another tool free. Choose from top brands like DeWalt, Rigid, Milwaukee, and Makita. Then choose another tool to put under the tree as well. A toolkit from the Home Depot makes a great gift. And right now, it makes 2 great gifts. Buy a select toolkit, get another tool free. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Valid through January 24th, 2018, U.S. only while supplies last. 1 transaction per customer. See store for details.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
The NCAA handed Ole Miss a 2-year postseason ban for multiple violations, including lack of institutional control. Former Rebels coach Hugh Freeze received a 1-year show cause penalty, as well as a 2-game suspension for failure to monitor his staff. Penalties will apply only to head coaching positions. The University of Tennessee in the news again. They have fired AD John Curry after only 8 months on the job. WVLT TV breaking that news. Of course, the Volunteers continue to look for their next head football coach. Notes from this morning's 2018 World Cup draw. It was held in Russia, the host country. The host Russian team is in Group A. They'll play Saudi Arabia in the opening game of the tournament June 14th in Moscow. Defending champ Germany is in Group F and opens the 2018 tournament facing Mexico. Sweden and South Korea are also in that group. I'm Deb Carson.
We are the best.
Electric power is getting cheaper, and it's increasingly coming from renewable resources. The Wall Street Journal reports the entire electricity market is undergoing major changes as coal and nuclear-fired plants are being replaced by wind, solar, and natural gas, which are now cheaper. Electricity prices are also dropping because demand is down, and that's partly due to consumers switching to more energy-efficient appliances. A new nationwide ad campaign just kicked off this week, offering blunt warnings.
There is no safe cigarette.
All directly addressing the negative impacts of smoking.
All cigarettes cause cancer, lung disease, heart attacks, and premature death.
The ads are paid for by the tobacco companies themselves, part of a federal court order.
It is a really big watershed in terms of the industry actually coming clean for the first time ever about the health effects of smoking.
It's the end result of a Justice Department racketeering lawsuit against Big Tobacco stemming back to 1999. Claiming the companies lied.
It has been a campaign designed to preserve their enormous profits, whatever the cost.
Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country.
As NBC's Steve Patterson reports, a court ordered Big Tobacco in 2006 to produce the ads, but 10 years of failed appeals held those ads up until now. President Trump is nominating Carnegie Mellon University economics professor Marvin Goodfriend to the Federal Reserve. He would fill one of 3 vacancies on the 7-member board. With Fed Chair Janet Yellen leaving in February, Trump will have a 4th seat to fill. And the top nominees for Car of the Year are the Toyota Camry, the Honda Accord, and the Kia Stinger. The announcement made as the Los Angeles Auto Show got underway this week. Truck of the Year nominees are the Chevrolet Silverado ZR2, the Ford Expedition, and the Lincoln Navigator. The SUV of the Year will be chosen between the Honda Odyssey, the Volvo XC60, and the Alfa Romeo Stelvio.
Jack, let's go!
Winners will be announced January 15th at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit. Consumer and business news, Joe McConnell, NBC News Radio.
$20 per month unlimited in-car Wi-Fi from AT&T.
Well, yeah.
That's for your family's holiday road trip. Get the kids connected in the back seat so they can stream their favorite music, TV shows, music, and more. Also get access to stations and playlists from the iHeartRadio app. Go to att.com/connectedcar to learn more. Turn your car into a powerful Wi-Fi hotspot with in-car Wi-Fi from AT&T.
And he just beats the equipment.
98%!
No! Damn it!
Damn it! Service and coverage not available. Other charges, additional usage, and other restrictions.
God, that was hysterical when he...
Oh, he had his nuclear meltdown.
Two new experimental drugs seem to help reduce headaches for people suffering from chronic migraines. Both drugs are injectables, and they're used to stop migraines before they actually start. They work by blocking an inflammatory molecule known to spike during migraine attacks. Researchers say 2 separate studies show that 4 out of 10 patients on the drugs were able to cut their migraine days in half each month. A woman whose mother fought depression
minute and a half.
life is now
How many martinis you
So
gonna
do we
have
have
in
any
this
guests this
thing?
hour?
No guests.
Research.
Okay.
Gruss is doing it by selling.
So at 11:30, we're going to say, all right, if you remember the keyword we gave to you in the 10 o'clock hour, call now with the correct word. First caller wins the tickets.
Of lifting your senses.
Crickets.
Gruss
Wins the crickets?
She thinks its fragrance conveys a sense of well-being. Health update. Kevin Kessler.
They're like, Dave, you keep the
News
tickets.
Radio.
At Amazon, we've got everything you need for the perfect holiday get-together. From whining to dining to recording together afterwards.
Good times.
And get free shipping on over 100 million items with eligible orders over $25. Only at Amazon. For all your entertaining and gifting needs. So whether it's a small family gathering or a whole house full, if you're hosting good times this holiday, visit Amazon.
North Pole Radio on iHeartRadio.
Santa here. Join me as I play all of your Christmas favorites.
I'm glad that
live from my North Pole
Gary ran
studio.
long because I was getting ready to ask him about Newman and they got eliminated.
They
got crushed. They were like unbeaten, weren't they?
Join me for a musical sleigh ride.
Next week you play.
10 seconds.
Curtis and Catholic. That's
North Pole Radio on iHeartRadio.com or on the free
Delasal
iHeartRadio app
plays
now.
You High.
Here we go.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Friday, December 1st. Already in December.
What
man.
happened?
It's crazy.
What happened? Weren't we just in the press box for the Saints opener and the kickoff, and the season just blows by?
I feel like we were just sitting down in mid-July starting the show. So the fact that we've been on the air from July to December, I mean, someone's not doing their job. We should be gone.
Yeah, where's the FCC involved? Off by now?
I got a whole bunch of mail from them.
I figured that.
Yeah, don't open it.
I just haven't opened it.
Yeah,
just have them stacked up, and we'll just light them on fire and throw them in the garbage
I just remember being up in Minneapolis. I went for a run along that river. Is that the Mississippi River? I think it is, all the way to Minneapolis. Going for a run, 3 or 4 hours before kickoff, and going to the stadium, and here we are. That's crazy.
Well, I think it's crazier that we can actually still talk about Minneapolis as a possible game site, whether it's in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, considering the way the Saints started the season. And Jeff, obviously this game coming up Sunday, big time ramifications, winners in the driver's seat in the NFC South, and I think the whole team, they understand that. They know that what they've got coming. They know they've got Carolina. They know they've got Atlanta twice. Basically that everything is in front of them. And because of that, I think it's, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier for them to just kind of wipe away what happened against the Rams. I think they know they made some mistakes. And at full strength, which they might not be this weekend, but at full strength, I bet you they feel like they could still beat anyone.
Yeah, they should.
I agree.
I think 2 games, now looking back on this 11-game stretch, the 2 games that stand out to me are the first Panthers game in Week 3, where they went in there, I think, and kind of ambushed Carolina. I thought it was interesting. Yesterday's Charlotte Observer, our friend Joe Person, had a really interesting story talking to Panthers defensive players about some strategy and tactics that the Saints offense used against them. Actually, Ron Rivera turned in some of the plays to the league office. They didn't say what the response was, but basically saying, here, the Saints were doing this, and it's technically against the rules. I guess they were moving at the snap, and but they caught the Panthers flat-footed defensively, and they're prepared this time around. I'm sure the Saints are going to change things up, but I don't want to say it was bad blood because that's not true. They almost credited the Saints, but I think the Saints ambushed them with that game. And then the game against the Washington Redskins, when we all, I think, can pretty much agree, that's one they probably could have dropped and maybe should have dropped, and they stole it. So now you get you kind of get a win that you weren't expecting to get, and that helps you in the one-loss column. Both those games, I think, are huge.
Oh, no doubt about it. Well, the Carolina game for sure, because even though you're tied 8-3, you still, as of today, hold the tiebreaker. Obviously, it could be 1-1, and then you have some other things you got to go through. But this is for the NFC South lead and being in the driver's seat, because if you beat Carolina, then you're a game up in the standings, but you'll always have the tiebreaker. So that's going to be a big deal, because I don't think Carolina is going to be going anywhere necessarily. I think you could see 3 NFC South teams make the playoffs, and everybody's playing everybody. And you look at the schedules as far as around the NFL, everybody's seemingly in the the NFC, everybody in the playoffs hunt is basically playing everybody. So, some team could elevate themselves. Like if Philadelphia, they go to Seattle and then to Los Angeles in the next 2 weeks.
Correct.
If they could beat those teams, they could really shoot up the ladder and be the bona fide number one. But if they fall, look, it allows teams like Minnesota, teams like the Rams, teams like the Saints to kind of inch their way back and maybe challenge Philadelphia.
Everybody's playing each other over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Philadelphia, I didn't realize this. They played the second worst schedule in the entire NFL.
Yes.
They've only beaten one team with a winning record all year. Now, look, they've been handling teams in pretty dominant fashion the last few weeks. So you have to say, they can only play the teams in front of them. But we're going to find out about them on this West Coast trip. I think they're going to come back to the pack. It's going to open things up. Minnesota has to play in Atlanta this week. Atlanta's averaging 32 points a game the last 3 weeks and won all 3 games.
And they're getting back Devontae Freeman this week.
Yes, so their offense, they're figuring it out. Steve Sarkisian in his first year as a coordinator, I think, went through a little bit of a transition period. We know what kind of offense they have, their offensive firepower. That team, I think, is a very dangerous team. I think that team is going to make the playoffs. I'll be shocked if they don't.
I would think they would have a better shot. I could see 3 NFC South teams making the playoffs, and either Seattle and maybe LA bumping out. One of those teams will knock each other out.
I think Seattle's most likely to, just because of the injuries on their defense.
Right.
If Seattle loses to Philly this week at home, I think they're going to fall out. Now, Seattle there was an interesting stat I saw yesterday. They are 19-5 the last 5 years in the month of December and January, that last month of the season, the best record in the NFL. So they play their best at this time of year. Now, that's with that great defense that they're used to having. They don't have that anymore, but they're actually kind of becoming an offensive team. They're starting to use Jimmy Graham the right way. I think he's leading all tight ends and touchdowns right now. They finally figured out, hey, we've got a 6'7" freak athlete.
Let's just throw it up to him.
Throw it up to him. I know. Took Drew Brees like a week of training camp to figure it out.
Exactly.
Took Seattle 3 years. But anyway, I think that's a team that's going to be dangerous for Philadelphia this week, because Philadelphia's been beaten up on a bunch of cupcakes.
Right. I keep harping on that point, and I wrote about it a couple weeks ago, and it's clearly you could see they're playing a last place schedule, and they're benefiting by it. But you're right. Look, they're not like just beating teams; they're thumping teams. And look, before the Saints had maybe the last 2 weeks, there was a reason why you could make the argument, well, the Saints might be the best team in the NFL because they played a difficult schedule and they won, and they weren't just inching by. They were winning by 2 scores, 3 scores. Now, that talk has kind of been dialed back for the Saints a little bit. Yes, but still, I've said this. I've done a bunch of Charlotte radio stuff this week, and you keep getting asked, where do you think the Saints kind of are in the hierarchy? I said, when they're healthy And as far as people not being on IR, and oh, by the way, look, there's been a report out there that Zach Strief is not going to be coming off of IR. I think Mike Triplett from ESPN reported it yesterday, said that you will not be seeing Zach Strief back in a Saints uniform this year. But when they're healthy, as far as, say, Lattimore and Marcus Williams and all these guys, Ken Crawley, when they're on the field and they're healthy, they could beat anyone. I have no problem saying that. They can beat anyone.
I agree. I just don't know if they're going to be healthy, fully healthy the rest of the year with what's going on with Armstead.
Right.
He's a critical guy. Their linebacker cores had been nicked up. Marcus Williams, we don't know about him. It's the way the game is played. I like their depth at running back. I think they'll be able to move the ball on anybody. Can they score touchdowns instead of field goals? That seems to be what is holding back the offense, is some of the red zone production. But I wanted to add something real quick about the Eagles, because you mentioned how they're beating teams. 4 games in a row they've won by at least 20 points. If they were to beat Seattle 5 games in a row by 20 points, they would become only the second team in the last 50 years to beat 5 straight teams. The 99 St. Louis Rams greatest show on turf did it. And then no one else has done it since 1961. And only 5 teams have ever done it in the history of the NFL. So regardless of that fact, I mean, lots of teams have played a bunch of cupcakes and not won 4 straight games by 20 points.
Right. If you're beating any NFL slate by that amount of points, you're playing good football. I mean, you'd be doing well against just about anyone in the NFL. And top of the show, we had a little bit of breaking news from the Panthers. Their starting defensive end, veteran defensive end, Charles Johnson, will not be playing this week. He's been suspended, so it's probably going to put more mileage on Julius Peppers. We've talked about him over the last couple of shows, the last couple of days, how he's basically found the fountain of youth. And he's got, 150 some odd career sacks. At some point, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But that's still a blow. You basically counteract, say, if the Saints don't have Teron Armstead, maybe you're missing Charles Johnson, and the Saints don't have Alex Okafor. So Carolina's beat up too, just like the Saints. They're dealing with some key injuries, like Greg Olsen. I'm guessing he might be listed as limited today, but he did not practice the last couple of days. So they're banged up too. And Cam Newton's coming in banged up. So it's going to be a battle, we keep saying it, a battle of attrition. Who can basically outlast one another on Sunday?
Yeah, and I tell you who is healthy, and you mentioned it earlier, the Atlanta Falcons. They're one of the healthier teams in the league. They get Freeman back. They were healthy last year. Remember, that was one of the keys to their run. They hardly have any injuries. I think their entire offensive line didn't miss a single snap.
Well, this time around, they have Desmond Trufant this year. So they actually have a legit kind of lockdown corner, which they didn't have last year. He was out all last year.
And he's a legitimate big-time player, and I think their defense is starting to play. I mean, they're getting after the quarterback. And, we talked about this in training camp, talking to Peter King, talking to Albert Breer, some of the national reporters that came through, asking them during training camp, what's the best team you've seen? Invariably, Atlanta's name came up because they were so talented, and there's a reason that team went to the Super Bowl last year and had a 25-point lead, albeit squandered it in the Super Bowl. They've got ability, and I think they're very dangerous. They're starting to play better at home now in that new stadium, too. And we'll find out. It's going to be a huge game against the Vikings. The Vikings, interestingly, Larry, are playing very well with Case Keenum. I saw a stat on him. I'm full of stats today.
I mean, you're a stats McGee.
A stat guru, but he has the 3rd highest quarterback rating in the month of November of any quarterback in the league. He's got like a 111 quarterback rating. So he's playing very well. And that's been the key for them because their defense is going to be there. Mike Zimmer's going to have that defense playing very, opportunistically. They've got a bunch of Pro Bowlers on that side of the ball. But Keenum has kind of solidified the quarterback position, even without losing Dalvin Cook early in the year. They've been very productive with these no-name receivers, Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs.
Well, Diggs isn't a no-name. Yeah. Thielen just kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's had a huge year.
And they're kind of doing makeshift with Latavius Murray. I mean, they signed him, but they assumed he would not be the number 1 back. But yeah, they're getting it done. I'm impressed because I keep waiting for them to falter.
I do too.
And it seems like they're just not going to do it.
I keep picking them to lose in my picks, and they win every week. It's the same way I was doing it with Carolina. For some reason, I don't believe in Carolina, and they keep winning somehow. I don't know.
I could see why you wouldn't believe in Carolina. It's just you look at the stat sheet and the box score, and you wonder how they're scoring all these points when Cam Newton's playing bad and all these things. But no, they're winning in crazy ways. But that's the thing. Just like the Saints, they were winning in ways you weren't accustomed to seeing. So, look, good football teams figure out a way to win. Look, they're going to be 2 good football teams in the Dome.
Yeah, Cam Newton is just such an unconventional quarterback. I mean, the guy looks like a defensive end. He's built like no quarterback I think that's ever played the game. He and Ben Roethlisberger, I think, are the similar kind of build. And Newton he's going to make 2 or 3 throws a game that make you scratch your head. They're so inaccurate. It's mind-boggling how inaccurate he can be. But then he'll also make a pass that will just wow you.
Absolutely.
Remember the one he did last year to Ted Ginn Jr. in the back of the end zone right before halftime? I mean, that was an incredible pass.
That was right after a turnover and deep shot, boom. And that just put the knife right in the Saints.
So he's going to do that again on Sunday. You know he will. But I'm counting on the Saints defense to, produce a few takeaways. They've really kind of fallen off in the takeaway department. That's something I think that's a little disturbing that's not being talked about. They started the year with that, not started the year, but they had that run where they were taking the ball away a lot. That's tailed off dramatically, and right now the turnover ratio is starting to almost even up.
Yeah, they're +3 in the turnover margin, but look, they got it started at Carolina when they had 3 takeaways in that game. So maybe they can kind of bring back that mojo coming up here. So take a break right here on the show. Later on, we will hear, I'll catch up with Michael Thomas, of course, Saints' #1 wide receiver. Had about a 3-minute interview. Figured we'd play all that. And I think in the interview, that's where he duped me, where he basically was telling me that Luke Kuechly didn't play, and I just kind of...
He duped you.
I bought in. He just hoodwinked.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think because Kuechly's missed a bunch of games against the Saints, he's had those concussion issues, and it looks like Kobe Fleener's out. They've already announced that.
I don't know if they announced it, but he's missed the last 2 days of practice. I doubt he plays. So
Josh Hill,
Michael Ho'omanawanui.
Nice.
There you go, the old Who Man.
That's impressive.
As long as neither one of them get offensive pass interference penalties, because both of them had been hit for offensive pass interference penalties trying to set picks. So.
I think we should have made our keyword
Ho'omanawanui.
Yeah, that would have been a great keyword. Have our listeners call in and try to pronounce that to Dave.
That would be awful.
Dave couldn't even pronounce it.
I can't believe I know how to spell, just rattle it off. So, we'll talk more Saints, Panthers, and get lock of the week, fantasy stud of the week, and upset of the week. We will come back with that coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeart Radio app. Dunc and Holder.
Josh, this afternoon's
there's like a little
LSU controls its own destiny and everything.
So coming into the next break,
Okay. So
when we go to take our next break, that's when you ask.
11:30. All right.
So all the YouTubers are getting a quick heads up. Getting an early shot.
On Big Easy Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Butterfly Garden and Insectarium for just $34.
Dave, I will let you explain it one more time, when we do it, because I will screw it up.
All right.
.com. Keyword deals for your house.
Well, we don't say it again.
Yeah, we don't say it again. Jolly Days are here.
Don't blow it.
It's Friday through Sunday at Aaron's. Just $12 gets you started.
Cover it up on YouTube on our headline.
And appliances. Yes, just $12 with no credit needed and free delivery and setup. Make your holiday a jolly one. Get started with just $12 at participating Aaron's stores this Friday and Saturday, or at Aaron's.com this Friday through Sunday. Just $12 gets you started during Aaron's Jolly Days. Transaction advertising.
2 minutes.
Some restrictions apply, so see store for details.
Searching for the perfect Christmas soundtrack? We've got you covered. iHeart Radio is your app for Christmas music with our most popular station of the season, iHeart Christmas Radio.
Challenging Sean Payton or sword.
100% Christmas favorites, commercial free. The most wonderful time of the year deserves the best music. So let iHeart Christmas Radio be the soundtrack to all of your holiday traditions. All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free.
There, and everyone's like shocked.
1 in 6 seniors face
a
threat of hunger, and
millions
more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello.
I just came in the first time.
By donating your lunch break at AmericaLet'sLunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and
he looks over and he looks at me. He's like, Larry Holder, what the
headed to
bleep are
work
you
with
doing
you.
here? I
Amazon
said
is
same
out
thing
with
as you.
Alexa for
Take a
business
piss.
and some of the
He starts laughing. The whole bathroom's like, they realize it's like, okay, not some crazy stalker guy.
Right. Multiple people in one space. Amazon's voice-activated speaker already has the ability to make
I said, hey, you want to
video
play some
calls and
bleeping swords or
incorporate
what? That was like what I said when I stood right next to him.
The Apple Watch is now a literal lifesaver.
They looked
The
up.
Heart Study app uses the iWatch's heart rate sensor to collect data on atrial fibrillation.
Yeah, he was there
when
with
a regular
Beth.
rhythm is detected,
That's
a
how
person
long
gets
ago
a
that was.
notification on their watch and phone, as well as
If me and Joni are out at Lucy's and he's out with Beth, you know that's a long time ago.
Monitored.
We don't go out.
Nintendo is now offering just what your breakfast needs. Super Mario cereal. The morning delicacy is served with marshmallows in the shape of iconic Super Mario items, and the box is an amiibo. Yes, when you tap the NFC-enabled box with a Switch console while playing Super Mario Odyssey, you'll unlock extra coins and hearts
both of their
in
4-year
the game. Tech Report, Larry Olsen,
tuitions at
NBC
Indiana
News
State
Radio.
or wherever, Eastern Illinois, were not as much as Pepperdine 1 year.
To break down a garden gate, there's not much time left today.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
All right, Jeff, you ready to do lock of the week, upset of the week, fantasy stud of the week? And I'm sure many people are on the edge of their seats for our fantasy stud of the week, because typically in fantasy leagues, this is probably the end of the regular season, because you play the next 3 weeks as playoffs. And because if you're in a fantasy league and you're playing in week 17, that's the dumbest fantasy league ever, because people start getting benched for playoffs. Don't even bother playing in that
But you have
league.
to use your managerial skills. You have to know that.
Like if you got Tom Brady, you got to make sure you've got whoever their backup is now, Brian Hoyer.
Right.
Make sure you play him. That's terrible.
By the way, my man crush makes his debut this week, Jimmy G, for the 49ers.
Did you pick him up?
Jimmy
Is
Garoppolo.
Is he going to be your
No,
fantasy
he's
stud
long
of the
gone.
week?
He's long gone, but I am interested to see how he performs. I didn't realize this. He's from Arlington Heights, Illinois, which is like a Chicago bedroom community. So he's making his debut in Chicago against the Bears, right in his hometown. He's going to have a ton of people there. It's going to be interesting to see how he does.
And he might actually get a shot to win, because the Bears stink. So
I
there you
know
go.
both teams are kind of bad, so that's not going to make my list here of my. Let's do the lock of the week first, because my lock of the week is actually going to surprise you. It would qualify as an upset of the week.
Whoa! Look at you.
I think the Seahawks.
You need like one of those hotlines, like call for the hot pick of the week.
I think the Seahawks are a lock against the Eagles.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I just do not see Philadelphia going out there on the West Coast and winning, even though I think they've got tons of ability. I had a great stat, another good stat for you on this.
You're all over it.
I know.
Stats.
Well, I'm telling you, the Seahawks, not only I mentioned that 19-5 record in the month of January, but an opponent hasn't been favored by more than 1 point in CenturyLink Field since 2011. The Eagles are 6-point favorites. So since Russell Wilson's been there, the biggest underdog they've been is 1. They're now 6-point underdogs. I love that. I like the Eagles straight up. I mean, the Seahawks straight up.
Man, all
Third
right.
fight.
I'm going to go for the lowest hanging fruit there is in the lock of the week. I'm going to take the Chargers over the Browns. The Chargers are playing good football. The Browns
out on a limb there, Larry.
Have you listened to this show and you heard how terrible my picks usually are? I just want to get one right, so I'm going to go my lock of the week, Chargers. Look, I think the Chargers could storm back and make the playoffs the way the AFC's rolling.
Our buddy Sam Farmer had a great line about the Chargers in his NFL picks. He said the Chargers are that car when you're on the highway and they're going 95 in the left lane in your rearview mirror with their lights blinking. That's what they are right now in the AFC West.
Yes.
I mean, they are coming. You better get out of their way, because I think they've won like 4 out of 5. And you're right. I mean, they got a good defense. They have a good quarterback. And that division is kind of all of a sudden falling apart. The Chiefs, man, they're like nothing. They were 5-0 at one point. Now they're 6-5. And they can't score. Their offense is suddenly terrible.
Yeah.
So I think that's wide open. I agree with you. Okay, my upset of the week. I went on a little bit of a limb here. I'm taking the Lions at Baltimore. I guess it's not crazy, but the Ravens have kind of resurrected their season. They're playing really good defense. They have 3 shutouts this season, and have held like 5 or 6 teams to single digits or below. But I just like the Lions are kind of desperate. I think they got the ability. They're kind of very similar teams. And I think the Lions go on the road because they have to win, and they get a win against the Ravens.
All right, my upset of the week, Minnesota. The Falcons are 3-point favorites. I'm going with the Vikings.
I like that. That makes sense.
Yes.
They're 3-point underdogs in Atlanta. And I keep picking against the Vikings, and I picked them to lose to Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. I was wrong. So I'm with you on that.
I almost went with the Jets because Kansas City's fallen off the map.
I picked the Jets.
Did you?
Picks. Yeah, I think that's a great choice as well. And then fantasy-wise, I've got to go with Leonard Fournette. I know he's an easy pick week to week, but he's really tailed off. They're playing the Colts, who are awful. And I just think the Jaguars are going to give the ball to Fournette a million times. He's going to have a monster game because he needs to get back in this Rookie of the Year chase. Or
he's number 2.
Alvin Kamara, though, is distanced himself from
Leonard Fournette. If you go check out my first and 10 column, he's slipping as a distant second. Alvin Kamara has taken over. The odds via Bovada for Kamara to win are 1-5. Like he's taken it.
Whoa.
Commanding. It was 4-5 last week. It's the first time last week he jumped ahead, and now he's 1-5. So, and Fournette is
commanding.
Commanding.
I mean,
yes.
That's the definition. That's amazing. I would not have thought that. That seems like a bad bet.
Because Fournette could come back the last 4 weeks and be incredible.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Right. 1-5 is like that's a bad bet.
I'd still bet on Fournette. I'd bet on Fournette.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's a better bet. Right. That's a better wager.
Right.
1-5 on Kamara. I mean, he could get hurt. I hate to say that. I should knock on wood for.
Oh no,
Hexburger.
Sir Jeff, you're back.
If you lose Marshawn Lattimore and Kamara, that would qualify as a hex.
Might as well just say something about Drew Brees. Just go.
Oh, I didn't go there. I would never go there.
I didn't.
Guy's missed. He's missed 1 game in 12 seasons because of injury.
Right.
2 games total.
You mean you're not going to take Geno Smith as your fantasy stud of the week?
No, that could have been the lock of the week, by the way. The Giants going all the way across the country to play the Raiders with Geno Smith.
And that team in
total
disarray.
Total, ready to mutiny against Ben McAdoo. That's a lock. They might as well not even go out there, right?
Right. Eli shouldn't. He should just stay home.
What happens if Geno Smith gets hurt and Webb doesn't go in? Do they bring Eli in?
I don't know.
Is
Eli even going to be active? He might be inactive.
Will he be active? That's crazy.
It's unbelievable. It's pitiful. It's really pitiful. No, my fantasy lock of the week. We
already did the lock.
I mean fantasy.
Fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy. Okay. Well, fantasy
stud.
Yeah, fantasy stud. I am going to go with my lock of the week, and I'm going to say Keenan Allen will be. He's been a monster these past few games against Cleveland. I think he's going to go off again. So I'm going to go with Keenan Allen, and because I think I have him on at least 2 teams, I'm going to hope he does well.
You're doing it all selfishly.
Just for me.
rooting for your
So I just
team.
doomed myself this week.
I've been riding the Alvin Kamara train on my fantasy team, and I've won 5 in a row, and that's rare in my league. I have this league, I think I've told you about it before, I've been in with Pat Forty and a bunch of journalists, Derek Gould, guys all over the country now, but we all started out in Monroe, Louisiana. Not all of us, but the league started in Monroe. And, man, we've been in this league for 30 years. It's crazy. And
you know what that means?
I'm old.
You're old.
I'm very old.
It means I would have had to have been in the league when I was 7.
Thanks, Larry.
Just saying. All right, Dave. You've been waiting for this. Your time to shine. Dave, let everyone know what to do. 11:30. Go ahead, Dave.
Call now with the keyword and you win Pelicans tickets.
504-260-1280 is the number. If you remember the keyword, you will get a pair of Pelicans Warriors tickets Monday night at the Smoothie King Center. Big game. Who cares? And they're in lower bowl. Great seats. So call in with the keyword now. First person to call in, 504-260-1280. They get the tickets. So good luck, everyone. And we'll be back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeart Radio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280.
The phone lines blew up.
This report is brought to you by Holiday.
Did they or no?
Oh, yeah, dude.
They did, yes! Someone listening!
front pushing. On Thursday,
Well, I was worried about Gordy, but man, the phone lines blew up when he gave him away too.
Man, free stuff.
But it is much drier.
Everybody
there,
loves
and
free
that's
stuff.
where we're going to
when
see
WrestleMania comes, we're going to give away like a choke slam from the Big Show. Call in and you can get choke slam.
70s, overnight lows will find out in the 50s, and we'll say mostly dry.
What does this mean, by the way?
Fox 8 Weather Authority and Bounce TV, I'm meteorologist Nakandra Norwood.
It's like that's the
Stop by the Roundhouse Bar and Grill inside the Round Holiday Inn on the West Bank Expressway for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Statistics show that 80% of Americans will give up on their New Year's resolutions by February. But there's one thing Americans never give up: AM/FM radio. In fact, TV reaches 86% of Americans. Radio commercials.
Drew Brees is going into the
reach
movie business.
93% of Americans in every single week
Like
of
he needs
2018.
more
So if you want to reach
exposure
more
and,
moms, fans,
I think he needs a little more money.
shoppers,
Drew needs
and
more
well,
money.
more of pretty much
He's
everyone.
not making any
Radio's
money.
the way to do it.
You need
Make
to
a
help him out.
resolution to go to
I'm going to go to Jimmy John's today to help him out.
Do it for the kids.
It's
Go
time
get
for
some
some
big
straight
vapor
talk.
rub.
The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior.
All right, you're gonna leave like
But
what?
guess
45?
what? Straight
Yeah, I'm
Talk
saving the
uses
Mike
the
Thomas
same
for,
cell
like,
towers,
you-
but charges
Perfect,
a
yeah,
lot
when I
less.
bail out on you
Who knew?
again.
Well, now you do.
I remember
And
now that you
so
say
let's
that.
do
I'm like, oh
something.
yeah, that's right.
It's time to
Well, I asked him like
Unlimited
yesterday. I'm like,
plans start as
is
low
it
as
starting right at
$35
noon? He
a
goes,
month
yeah,
on
right at noon.
America's
So I need
largest,
to.
most dependable
If it was,
networks. Straight Talk
they were just all
Wireless.
showing up at
Only at
noon. I
Walmart.
would.
Savings may vary.
Just
A
leave
month
whenever
equals
you
30
want.
days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
A former member of the Redskins did them in last night in Thursday night NFL game. Running back Alfred Morris, 127 yards and a touchdown as the Cowboys ended a 3-game losing streak 38-14.
Yeah, it is a rivalry, man, and I do know those guys, but tonight I didn't know them. I didn't really care who was on the other side of the ball. I came in the mindset that, we can't do what we've been doing the last 2 games. We can't, falter while the defense and special teams are kicking butt. So we showed up today.
Dak Prescott threw for 2 touchdowns for Dallas. Washington has dropped 3 of 4. Reports that representatives of the Giants and Giancarlo Stanton met last night as the team gauged interest in whether one of the game's most feared sluggers would be interested in
30 seconds.
Bay Area. Cavaliers ran their winning streak to 10 with a 121-114.
The winner is Aaron Wilkinson.
Aaron 5 Notre Dame 81-63. Tiger Woods at his first.
Is that E-R-I-N or A-A-R-O-N?
A-A-R-O-N. A-A-Ron.
A-Ron.
Aaron Wilkinson. A-A-Ron.
All right.
Y'all ever seen that clip with Key and Peele?
Yes.
A-A-Ron.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Your home for home team talk. Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Well, that didn't take long. Pelicans tickets are gone. Someone listens to the show.
At least one person.
For a long enough period of time. Congrats to Aaron Wilkerson. He will be going to Pelicans Warriors. And Dave.
Not Kenny Wilkerson.
No, not former radio or Kenny Wilkerson.
Saints sideline reporter Kenny.
Exactly.
R.I.P. Kenny.
Aaron Wilkerson. So congrats, Aaron. And I think just a small little tease, we may be doing this again at some point in the month of December.
Boy, you can't get better.
Who won the first pair of tickets in the Chris Gordy show?
No, who?
DJ and NOLA East, baby.
Yes.
Nice.
There you go. Attaboy.
So basically, we're filling up the arena with our listeners on 1280.
Damn, Skippy.
And now I can remove the football from Puka, the Puka headline that was on YouTube. So YouTubers, they had all the advantage.
You have to admit that's a memorable keyword.
Exactly.
You don't forget Puka.
Exactly.
I asked him, by the way, where that came from. I guess it was his grandmother called him that when he was a little baby, and it stuck with him. And it has stuck with him. Nobody calls him Anthony.
No. Of course not. When you got like a unique name, no way.
No way.
No one calls him Irvin. He's Magic.
That's good. Good point.
Exactly.
By the way, everybody's trying to come up with a nickname for Alvin Kamara, and it's just nothing's sticking. It's not. You can't force those things.
No, you can't. You can't call him like the Amazing Alvin, or Acrobat Alvin.
Everybody's saying AK-41. That doesn't work. Come on.
Because he's not 47, so it doesn't matter.
Right, it doesn't work.
He's not
if
an
he were
automatic.
47 would be perfect.
He's not an automatic weapon. Sorry, he's not. He's just.
No, I think that forcing the nickname is bad.
Well, and then it's people were trying to force a name for the defense. It's just got to be organic.
It's got to happen.
Right.
Let it happen. But New Orleanians love nicknames. We love to name.
Well, the Dome Patrol did that. That's the best name you could ever come up with, and trying to top that is going to be hard to do.
We could be like Drew Brees and just call everybody put a Y on their last name.
Dunksy.
Brandon Cooks. What should his nickname be? Cooksy.
Yeah, Sprolsy.
That's Drew Brees.
And it's just Jimmy.
Who? Jimmy who?
Had to be Jimmy Graham. Can't be Gramsy, just Jimmy.
Oh, that's right. He never did come up with that.
Exactly.
I mean, that was always Drew's nicknames. He just throws a Y on the end.
I wonder if his kids have, because they all wear a Ted Ginn jersey. Ginsey? I don't know.
Tedsy?
Oh, gosh. We're going off the rails on a Friday. I can tell we're going off. It's the end of the week.
Getting goofy.
Yeah, but look, I was doing some research on just where Carolina ranks as far as throughout the league, offensively, defensively, and when the Saints play good defenses, they have to rise to the occasion. And you look at Carolina's defense numbers-wise, I know they had good numbers when they went up against them in Week 3, and it was kind of fool's gold, but they've maintained and gotten better. Look, they're number 2 in the NFL in total defense. They're 8th in points allowed. What I think is going to be very important is that the Carolina defense, they're 3rd against the run. They're only giving up 83.2 yards per game. And obviously, when the Saints are rolling, that's what they do. And, Jeff, you were talking about how Ron Rivera, they were, looking at some of these plays, this, that, and the other, and they had a good game plan last time they played. The Saints weren't using Alvin Kamara in that game like they are now. So I think it's a different scenario when they're going up against them. So maybe the Saints can counteract the rushing numbers, but they are going up against a stout front against Carolina.
I think Shaq Thompson is going to get the spy duty on Alvin Kamara. That's just my opinion. I think he's the kind of athlete that can keep up with Kamara if there is one in the league. And I think they're going to put him out there and make sure he doesn't get all these screens and all the things that the Saints like to do. They really haven't had their screen game going as well as they have just those little flare passes to him out of the backfield. That seems to be where he's been making most of his hay.
Kevin in the East,
so we'll
Juan
see.
in New Orleans.
See how it plays out.
I hear. All right, let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's go to Kevin in the East. Kevin, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? Got a couple of quick questions. Saints question and a Palace question for you guys.
Sure, go ahead.
What's the story with Wilkerson? I'm sorry, not Wilkerson, with Muhammad. I'm a little concerned about our pass rush since Okafor is going out.
Okay, so you're talking about Al-Qadim Muhammad. Yeah, he wasn't active.
Exactly.
Yeah, he wasn't active last week, which kind of surprised me. I'm curious to see what the plan is this week. And because they were rolling with Trey Hendrickson, they were rolling with Haley Kikaha, and in some base defenses, they were putting Sheldon Rankins out on the edge. I'm curious to see what they do there. But yeah, I don't know if Muhammad's going to be active. It just seems like right now he might not be.
They're rolling with like Trey Hendrickson, I think, a lot.
Yeah,
moving him inside and Kikaha. I think more experienced guys. But that could change easily because it didn't seem to work very well with Rankins at defensive end. That didn't seem to
And
pay
Sean
off.
Payton complained about the lack of pass rush after the Rams game. So I don't see what it would hurt. So I'm kind of on board with you. I don't see what it would hurt to have Muhammad maybe give him, 10 snaps on pass rushing situations, see what the kid can do.
Well, I always wonder what the concern is. It seems like they're afraid to put him out there. Maybe, like you say, his lack of experience or something, but they seem to be concerned he's going to get caught maybe going inside when he should protect the outside or something like that. But he just seems the closest guy to Okafor to me in terms of a pass rusher.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, he's just not as experienced, and I think that the Saints are probably just wanting to go with his experience there, I guess. But yeah, what's your Pelicans question?
The way Darius Miller has been playing, coming off the bench, he's really given us a big spark. I was just kind of wondering if it's possible. You think maybe they could start him and somehow bring Jordan Crawford back to give us that spark off the bench, because we really need more offense, man, on this team. We need some scorers.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm surprised Crawford hasn't been picked up by somebody. I think he's still out there.
I just checked. I checked a couple of days to see what his status was, and he's still a free agent right now.
Yeah, it's surprising because he is instant offense off the bench, and Miller's kind of filled that role. Certainly the perimeter shooting has been incredible. I mean, this guy really has – you have to credit him. He's really worked on his game when he went overseas. But I think they like him in that role off the bench. I think they like this three-guard lineup because it causes some matchup problems for the opponents. but likewise, it causes matchup problems for the Pelicans because they struggle against wings.
Right.
You know, these bigger wings like Jimmy Butler and Wiggins. They gave them all kinds of problems matchup-wise.
Exactly. Well, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, Kevin. Appreciate the phone call. Let's hit more phone calls here. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Juan in New Orleans. Juan, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What's up, Juan?
How you doing?
Good.
I was calling to ask, what you think the problem is with Willie Snead on offense? Is it just a case that Sean Payton is not getting them involved, or he just hasn't found the rhythm?
Hey, Juan, appreciate the phone call, Juan. Yeah, and our own Amos Morale actually caught up with Willie Snead earlier this week. He published a story. It's in today's print edition as well, the Times-Picayune. And Willie didn't exactly reveal what the problem is. I think he's kind of wondering the same thing.
Mike,
all I know is that he just he fell out of favor once he got that arrest and suspension. And we've seen this before, Jeff. Once you kind of get in the doghouse a little bit, it's hard to get out. And it's probably not just with Sean. I would think if Drew Brees isn't throwing him the football, maybe he doesn't trust him as much. It's hard to there's got to be some stuff when we talked about it. It's got to be something going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's got to be more to it because he's definitely been phased out. His role has been diminished greatly. And, he's coming up on a contract year. It's tough timing for him right now. He was right on the brink, a guy that came into the league, worked his way into a good situation, and now, man, he's looking at – I don't know what his future is here in New Orleans, to be honest with you, because Larry and I both think this team is going to go receiver or maybe tight end in this upcoming draft, and that could make him expendable.
I got you. All right, let's take one final break here on the show. I know Jeff's got a bolt. He's got a speaking engagement, so Jeff's looking dapper as I'm just looking like a bum. So, Jeff, happy weekend to you. I'll see you Sunday.
Yes, we'll see you in the press box. Bring your knit cap and scarf.
Absolutely. So we got one more segment here on the show. When we get back, we still got some time for some calls, but we also want to squeeze in. Also want to squeeze in my interview with Michael Thomas. So we will play that coming up in the final segment here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.